Hello everyone, here are some lessons about life that I have learned through observing the INTP. Now, I have restarted this intro about 5 times, and the thing that I keep coming to is that for an INTP, their worldview, one, it's always changing, they're always updating it. That's what it's like to have introverted thinking as your top function. You're always thinking, always thinking. So they're never going to just like have a worldview and then go on living life and then have that worldview in the background or anything like that. Their worldview is what they're always sort of deep in the weeds of, and every single time something new happens, their worldview might completely shift. And so every time that I am sitting here trying to say like, oh, INTPs tend to believe this or whatever, it's just not gonna work. I've tried this video and then I would get frazzled and think about all the INTPs that are gonna comment and say, well, that's not true, I don't do this. And that's like the thing that's so fascinating is that is like a lesson that I have learned through INTPs, is to always be updating my worldview. Because at least most that I've known tend to do that. Another thing is, always stay skeptical about things, like question everything. Because the thing is that people lie and people manipulate, and they kind of, I think, can get away with this because they don't expect that people are going to notice their breadcrumb trail. And I think that INTPs really do not want to be played at all. And so they're very aware that, people have different motives and not all of them are nice. And so INTPs really try and understand like where they're coming from and try and understand the motives that another person might be coming from to sort of prevent themselves from being taken for granted or walked over or played or manipulated. And that's why they're very skeptical of things. They do not just blindly believe authority. They do not blindly believe what they're told. It's almost impossible for an INTP to believe that something is true unless they have linked together all of the facts for themselves. And they're able to entertain ideas, though, that they don't necessarily believe, because for them, they're always seeking the truth. They're seeking the capital T truth, like universal truth that's true for all humans, for everyone on this earth. They're seeking that. Now, I don't know if INTPs commonly believe that that's even possible to get there, but I do think that they want to do their part to seek it. And so if they think something's true and then somebody else thinks that something else is true, they aren't going to just close-mindedly be like, well, you're wrong, bye. And okay, maybe they will say that out loud. But the thing is that if an INTP says that out loud, like, well, you're wrong, bye, it's because, at least in their mind, they've probably already considered what you're saying and already filtered it through their little processing system in their head. The point is that INTPs are typically fascinated by ideas that are different from them as well, and it's like they don't discriminate between good idea or bad idea. They tend to really believe in the marketplace of ideas. Comment, let me know if you're an INTP who believes or doesn't believe in the marketplace of ideas, which is essentially the idea that the best ideas will rise to the top naturally when there is free speech. Now, INTPs tend to really value free speech. It's because they are naturally distrustful of authority, because they think for themselves, and I think that they really see that there's a huge problem in the world when people don't take the time to look to see how the sausage is made, if you will, and they just accept what everyone says is true without thinking for themselves, because they know that there are powerful people that have motives, that have reasons for wanting you to not think for yourself. And so in an INTP's mind, if you are trying to combat, tyranny, or feeling like you're worthless, or feeling like, or like fighting injustice or anything in the world, for an INTP, their mind and their ability to think for themselves is the most important thing. And so people in their circle that are trying to control their ideas or their free thinking are probably going to get some backlash from an INTP, because whether they're wrong or right, it's the principle of the thing. And this is something I've heard INTPs say a lot, like that it's the principle of the thing. They will do things for the principle of the thing. A lot of times they will complain to a business customer service whenever their package got there late or something like that. Not because they were upset about it, but because they believe that, the business should know that like their system isn't working. And they'll do things like this for the principle of the thing, because they're wanting to uphold a just system that works. And if they notice that something doesn't work, in my experience, it seems like INTPs have some sort of obligation to express that it doesn't work. Now, this kind of relates to the concept of truth. INTPs are seeking truth, and to them, truth completely trumps your personal feeling about that truth. And in a lot of ways, your personal feeling about the truth could actually be hindering happiness for all, or hindering the ability for the system to work for all. And so I'm not saying that, when I say free speech, depending on where you live in the world, that can mean a lot of different things, and it can mean a lot of different things politically. People could be far left or far right and believe in free speech. And so I'm not saying that INTPs have like a tendency for a certain belief, because in my case, in my experience, it's not been true. I do find that whenever INTPs do decide that they want to get involved in something like politics, they're going to have a very sound perspective. No matter what side it's on, it's going to be pretty bulletproof and really making sure not to be hypocritical. It's going to be very consistent. So, yeah, but your personal feelings about that, sorry about that, guys. I got a call, and so that stopped. But essentially, they aren't trying to be jerks, but they just know that sometimes personal feelings and personal beliefs can get in the way of how the system works, or how the system serves the collective, or like how just it is. And, a lot of times things like religion or other things can cause people to have very strong beliefs that can actually, they'll do things in a really self-serving way that is not, it just doesn't work. Also, a lot of times INTPs don't really see the point in holding back those opinions whenever it is serving truth and it's serving justice, because they'll sometimes feel like they have a duty to share it. Now, if you're an INTP and you're listening to this and you don't resonate with that because you don't really share your opinions very often, on one, you might be an ENTP who just is more socially introverted, or you might be an INTP that just has not found really a passion yet. Because I've found that this sort of willingness to share is connected to like the extroverted feeling in an INTP, and that's like activated once like your TI really, really, really knows like what you think. And so maybe you're an INTP and you only will do this about sports, or maybe you'll only do this about politics, or maybe, I don't know, like there are maybe only in your specific career industry do you feel like that. But INTPs can sort of like get on a roll where they like see this thing that's truth, or they see this thing of how the system should work, and they feel like it's only right to say something, and they're not really afraid of what people think at all. They're willing to be the asshole if it means that the system and what they think should be done is done. They absolutely don't blindly follow authority, and they're afraid of blindly following authority. And so to say something that might make them seem like a social outcast or perceived as an asshole is actually kind of a courageous act of trying to not follow the authority or blindly accept what's true. And a lot of times they will get a lot of kind of an ego boost from doing that, even though you might think like, oh, they just, like, they don't really. I learned from them that, like, you know, if you believe in something and if you think that something is true, then you should say it, and that if you're afraid to say it, or if you can't speak your truth, then perhaps deep down you don't really think it's true. I've gotten to this with like some INTPs that have disagreed with me on something. If I ever want to agree to disagree or change the subject, sometimes they view that as me being either defensive or trying to skirt around the fact that I don't truly believe that what I think is true, which, I don't know, maybe they have a point. But I guess this is, I don't know if any INTP has said this to me straight up, but something that I just have gleaned from their presence is that, like, if I think something, but I'm afraid to say it because I'm afraid of, like, pissing someone off, or I'm afraid of being wrong, like, or, oh no, I think what I'm trying to say is, like, if I say something and then people tell me that they disagree, and then that makes me, like, shake in my boots a little bit and be like, oh my gosh, then I must not really believe it all the way. Sometimes INTPs will be like, I'll say things just to test how much I believe them based on how I react or whatever. And, you know, they're always refining what they believe and what they think is true. And so the only way to really know that is to, you know, talk about it. They also believe that there's always more than what meets the eye, and they're willing to look into crazy avenues that might contain some ounce of truth. My cousin, who's an INTP, was saying, I thought it was so funny. If you're watching this, Jack, hi. He is like 18, and he was like, nobody's gonna tell me that I should go to a party or that I need to drink. When Jack parties, Jack decided to party, okay? Nobody's gonna tell me that it's time to party or that I have to do whatever. When I do it, it's because I decided to. And I thought that was, like, really funny, because I think it really illustrates that sort of belief of not being pushed around, not just blindly listening to what you've been told, not blindly listening to what everyone else is doing, actually thinking for yourself and realizing how important that is and how much value that can bring to the world. So, I don't know, guys. I really wanted to get this video out today, and, you know, maybe it's a good thing that I'm not talking forever, but, oh, last thing I'll say is, like, everyone has a reason for everything that they do, and even if their reasons are stupid, they typically have a reason for things, and INTPs seem to know this, and that's why they're skeptical of people, because a lot of people have stupid reasons for things, because they don't really think through the reason. And a lot of people do things without thinking, or do things without acting, or act without, you know, processing it all. So that's something that really stresses out an INTP. I don't know. I'm afraid to, all you INTPs are telling me you want me to make this video, and like, I don't understand, like, this stresses me out because every time I want to talk to you guys, I'm like worried that I'm gonna say something, and then there's gonna be one INTP out there that's like, well, that's not technically true for me. And you know what? Oh my gosh, it's so exhausting to make videos for you guys. People have been commenting, I want the INTP video of this series. Well, freaking hope this one's good enough for you, honestly. I'm just gonna post this, okay? I can go into more things later, but I feel like, sort of, when I think about what lessons that I've learned from the INTP perspective, it's more of a feeling than an actual, like, words of advice, because I think that INTPs are naturally skeptical of words of advice. So it's almost kind of counterintuitive to even do this video, to even say like, oh, here's some nuggets of wisdom from an INTP, because almost every time I've gotten a nugget of wisdom from an INTP, it's been very specific to their situation. They've used a little anecdote, they've applied it to my situation and also the world at large, and also their idea of truth. So it's like, I would say, honestly, think for yourself is the number one, and it's the most obvious one. If any INTPs watch me and want to give me a little pat on the head, let me know you don't hate me. Like, I know that's really a lame thing to ask for, but I really want to share my insights on INTPs, but I always get like stressed out posting these videos because it's literally it's like you guys are literally impossible to please. And that like kind of it kind of is illustrated in, one, how kind of slow I'm talking in this video compared to the other videos that I do with other types based on how I feel communicating with them. And also, that is illustrated in how INTPs are naturally skeptical of anything that anyone says. So here I am, and I'm saying that they're skeptical of authority. Some of you guys might even view me as some sort of authority, not really, but just like some person on YouTube, which is, you know, I don't know, the man saying something about the way that things are, and it's like you're gonna be naturally skeptical of what I'm saying. And if I don't say it absolutely perfectly, then there's gonna be holes in what I'm saying. And that's what always stresses me out about talking to INTPs. But that's a really great skill to have and a really awesome perspective, because a lot of times, you know, people haven't thought about things enough and they need to be challenged and all those things. And so I think being aware of that and aware of other people's motives, that they might not be perfect, and aware of your perspective in relation to theirs, that's like kind of, I guess, the takeaway is just being aware of what's going on in your brain, and being aware that other people have their own reasons and that they're not always good, and that you kind of always got to be thinking critically about them, and you've got to always be updating your worldview, because every time something new happens, you're going to have to integrate it in your worldview, and you can't be using Internet Explorer in 2018. You gotta upgrade, you know, to Chrome or something. I don't know. You get the idea, okay? So thank you for watching this video. Please join my Facebook group, Personality Typology for Self-Growth. I really have learned a lot from INTPs, and most of it is anecdotal and personal, and so I don't really know how to explain. One last thing I guess I'll say is that I remember being told by an INTP that, well, obviously if someone's your friend, they're going to be curious about your opinions on things. And that, you know, was actually a new thought to me as an ENFJ. I guess I thought friendship was just for being there for each other emotionally. I didn't even really think of it as, oh, I'm hanging out with this person, I guess I can just open my mouth about something that I've been thinking about. And INTPs do that. They do share, you know, what they're thinking about with the people that they love. It might take them a bit to get to that point, but they do. And I think giving yourself permission to do that and sort of defining friendship as, you know, someone that you feel comfortable doing that with, I think is something that all personality types can apply. Because I don't think that an INTP would ever have a friend or ever date anyone where they don't feel comfortable sharing those opinions. And so maybe apply that to your life. Don't surround yourself with people where you don't feel comfortable sharing your opinions, even if they're different or even if they're unpopular. So anyway, thank you for watching this. I appreciate your time and have a wonderful rest of your day.